always faithful outside the Lord, my strength and my redeemer. A few days ago, I was having a discussion with a friend, and we were talking about local politics and a story in the past that people were talking about of how someone betrayed a position of trust and embezzled a little bit of money from an organization that really, it was a nonprofit organization. It didn't have a whole lot of money. And that triggered stories. We both remembered stories. She remembered one in the town up north where a PTA, someone who was the treasurer, embezzled some funds from the PTA. Then I remembered a small church in Brooklyn. I had a colleague who worked there, and the treasurer was embezzling funds. So that led to a discussion of how, well, there used to be more integrity in the world. Integrity is really important. And you know, this younger generation, I mean, you know, you see it in public life, there's very little integrity. Everybody's out for themselves. And then I said, hey, wait a minute. What are we doing here? Every single young person I know, through work, through my children, through my friends' children, has integrity. They're trying to either have careers or find careers or get work that helps people. They care about people. They're honest. They have lots of integrity. And I realized we were just playing that older generation game of, you know, everything's going to pot since we aren't in charge anymore. But in fact, there is a tension between two different perceptions of the world. One of the world as being very corrupt, people driven by self-interest, of greed and corruption and unfairness, injustice in the world, and that's not unrealistic. And there's also a sense that we know of people who really care about other people, who are working for the good of other people, who are in themselves good and faithful and strong people. There's a tension there. And I think this tension, this conflict, is reflected in all three of our readings today. In the first reading from Acts, Paul and with Barnabas is preaching the Word of God. He's preaching the kingdom. And people are listening, people are responding, and then some people are threatened. Their power is threatened, their status is threatened, their income is threatened, and they organize a movement against Paul and Barnabas. And Paul and Barnabas are driven out of the town. And they go somewhere else where their message is received. In the book of Revelation, I have to talk a little bit about the book of Revelation. It's the last book in the Bible, and it's probably one of the most misunderstood books in the Bible. Revelation means unveiling, and it was written during the persecution by Nero. There had been a fire in Rome, and there were rumors that Nero started it himself. And he needed a scapegoat, and the Christians represented a small enough group that wouldn't be able to defend itself, and so there was horrendous persecutions. And it's believed that Mark, or some scholars think that Mark is one of the people who died in that persecution. And John of Patmos, it's called John of Patmos because he was exiled, he was persecuted, he was exiled to the island of Patmos. And there he had a vision. That's what Revelation is. It's a report of his vision. And he was writing, part of the book of Revelation is letters to 7 churches throughout the Roman world who are suffering persecution. And it's urging them to remain strong, to remain faithful in these very, very difficult times where there was torture, there was murder, there was death. I mean, it was bad times. And he's urging them to remain strong. And he's doing it through this vision that he had. He is wafted up to heaven, and there what he sees is what God sees. It's a cosmic view of the world, lifted up out of the historical moment and seeing something larger. And this is what he's reporting. And this form of literature, apocalyptic, is a genuine genre in the Bible. There are several books that are like this. Certainly in the Old Testament, there's the book of Daniel. And this form of biblical writing has certain aspects. It thrived between about 230 BCE to about 200 CE. So for about 400 or 500 years, it thrived as a biblical genre. It seems like it's in code, and in some ways it is, because it's usually written in times of great persecution. And there are certain features. One of the features is that it doesn't proceed logically. It's a series of the same thing happening over and over with more and more intensity. The idea is to inspire faith, not to convince the mind. So there's no logical sequence, but there are ever more intense descriptions and visions of remaining faithful in times of trouble. And another feature of apocalyptic writing is that it's set in the past. The figure is usually someone who lived a long time ago, and it goes up to the cosmic perspective and meets an Ancient of Days, or meets God, or meets an angel, and is spoken to and told the truth. The book is open and secrets are revealed about what is going to happen. But it has already happened. It's presented as a vision of the future, but it's about the past, and it's really about the present. The reason I'm going on about this is it's a big mistake to look in the book of Revelation for predictions of what's going to happen in our day. That's not what it's doing. It's talking about past empires that failed, that were destroyed, because empires don't last. And Rome, too, will be destroyed. That's the cosmic vision when you're in persecution under this authority that has all the power. They have all the power. They can do what they want. They have the military, they have the navy, they have the power of the state, the bureaucracy. They can do whatever they want, and they do it. And the apocalyptic vision, the cosmic vision, is that this too will pass. It happened in the past. It happened with Babylon. It happened with the Persian Empire. And it'll happen with Rome. It will fail. It will eventually fall. It will eventually be destroyed. And it's something that no empire believes about itself. No empire. But it happens to be true. And in the 20th century, I don't know if anyone's old enough, maybe their child or their parents can remember when the sun never set on the British Empire. It started setting. And I can remember when it seemed like the Soviet Empire would last forever. It lasted 70 years.